Okay, on the second page of your notes for 5-6, I feel like you're probably able to do this on your own. If you're not, you're welcome to watch this completely. However, I would suggest you stopping the video at this point and you trying to do it. I'm just going to go through the rest of the questions that I've already done from last year and point out the highlights of those. So on number 3, here we are. Here's your work. Number 3 works out to be pretty standard. It's very similar to number 2. Everything works out pretty well. Just be careful with your negatives. Again, you want to do minus BAC. Or sorry, minus 4AC. I don't know what I'm saying. Minus 4AC. Do that as one chunk. So negative 4, positive 2, negative 5, all multiply to give you positive 40. That gives you 41 under the radical. That's not a perfect square, so separate it and do it as 2 separate problems in your calculator. Negative 1 plus radical 41 equals divided by 4. That should give you 1.350. If you do the negative part, you will get negative 1.850. All right, number 4 is our first special case. You've got your A is 1, B is negative 6, C is 9. Plug it in, it's looking good. However, when you get down to here, 36 minus 36 is a whopping nothing. So you have 0 under the radical. Well, it doesn't matter if you add the square root of 0, which is 0, or subtract it. You're not going to get anything different there, right? So it turns out you only have one solution because 6 minus 0 and 6 plus 0 is both 6. So you only end up with one solution of 3. So that's nice. Number 5 is your second special case. Number 5, your first step is to move this negative 6 over. You would have to add 6 to both sides. You get that as your quadratic equation. A, B, and C. Looks good until you go to actually do your B squared and your minus 4AC. You get a negative. You can't have a negative under the radical. So again, just like yesterday we got one, and today, no solution. And just a reminder, if you were to graph this, this would be a parabola that opens up because A is positive. We'll learn that next week. It opens up and it doesn't actually hit the x-axis. It may come close to it, it may not. I'm not sure without doing more work, but it's not going to ever cross the x-axis. Number 6, your number 6 is different than what I had before. So here's the new number 6. You could solve this by the quadratic equation. And if you are, you should move over your 10. And then you notice you have no B term, your BX, there's nothing. So you can put a 0 in here. Then it just looks like a lot of zeros. A is 1, B is 0, C is negative 1. So you've got this going on. You've got the 0 on this side this time. So you actually still are going to have 2 answers. Your B squared minus 4AC works out to be 40. So you're going to have positive radical 40 over 2 and negative radical 40 over 2. Which, of course, since it's just one's positive, one negative, it's the same number, different sign. All right, and the last part. This is on your test. You should know it. The discriminant. The discriminant is simply the part that is underneath the radical. So the discriminant is B squared minus 4AC. It does not include the radical. That's important. And the discriminant is just telling us how many roots there are. So if you look at question 1 and 2 in your notes, the discriminant would be 25. Discriminant here in number 2 would be 53. Those are both positive numbers. So when you take the square root of a positive, you get 2 different answers because you've got you've got a plus or minus. So you can add it and you can subtract it. 2 different answers. So that, if it's a positive number, the number of solutions is 2. If you were to look at number 4, here it is. Number 4, your discriminant was 0. If you have a discriminant of 0, this is where we talked about it doesn't matter if you add 0 or subtract 0, you're only going to end up with one answer. So if you're 0, we get one solution. And then number 5 was an example of when we got a negative. And if you have a negative underneath the radical, no way, Jose, you can't do that. So you get no solutions. And then 9 through 12 here is just asking you to determine the number of solutions, which you're going to do by finding the discriminant. So on number 9, you're just going to do b squared minus 4ac. So b squared negative 4 squared would be 16 minus 4 times 1. Your discriminant is 12. 12 is positive, so therefore we will have 2 solutions. You're not actually finding the solutions. I suppose if you forget all this, you could do it and then tell me how many answers you get. That's a lot of work. Number 10, make sure you would rewrite this as negative 2x squared plus 4x minus 3 equals 0. Bring that constant over. And then when you go to do b squared, we'll have 16 minus 4 times a times c. Well, let's see, 8 and 3, we would have 16 minus 24, which is negative 8. If you were to have a negative 8 under your radical, you're like, nope, can't do that. So you would end up with no solutions. Or you can just put a 0 with the backslash. And I'm sure you can probably do these on your own. Here are your last questions. Number 11, is that the same number? Yeah, number 11 for you, you should get a discriminant of 0. If you get a 0 under the radical, doesn't matter if you add or subtract 0, you get the same number, one solution. And number 12, you would get negative 8. So same as number 10, actually, strangely. Still no solution there.